Ethics in Instructional Design from a Biblical Worldview by Sherry J. Mack. This is presentation to my peers. Ethics in the field of instructional design is knowing what is right from wrong in multimedia. The Association for Educational Communications and Technology, AECT, their code of professional ethics promotes ethical practice in a profession. A professional can now determine how it fits into daily practice when making difficult decisions. This code is divided into three different commitments: to the individual, to society, and to the profession. The Bible says in the book of Matthew, 7th chapter, 12th verse, "In everything, therefore, treat people the same way you want them to treat you, for this is the law and the prophets." The references that I have used are outlined in the back of my reference list. The purpose of this presentation is to share with my peers the concept of ethics in instructional design as it relates to a biblical viewpoint. Topics I will be covering is the ethical issue of copyright, the ethical issue of confidentiality or learner privacy, and the ethical issue of accessibility. The ethical issue of copyright. The most frequent ethical issue that learning technology practitioners have experienced is digital copyright. There are at least three situations in which learning technology practitioners can encounter copyright issues. The Bible says in Proverbs 2nd chapter and 7th verse, "He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity." The first situation is when practitioners, especially instructional designers and instructional technology specialists, interacted with faculty members and need to communicate extensively with them about copyright clearance in order to design online materials. Copyright is a big issue in their day-to-day working. They will have requests from faculty members to use an image or text from the textbook without getting copyright clearance. The faculty member does not understand that there are restrictions. The second situation is in order to be able to use a piece of text, a graphic, a Hollywood movie clip, or a music clip, practitioners have to obtain copyright clearance. If they can't get copyright for something, they will create the item for themselves to make sure that there are no copyright issues. For Christians, ethics and morals are based on God's character and law. The third situation is knowing the difference between copyright and fair use. There can be a gray area between copyright and fair use guidelines on the job. Someone who usually prepares seminar handouts and distributes them in free technology seminars in the university may not know whether the information is copyrighted or not. If teaching an introduction to Microsoft Word class, is it okay to copy and paste the how-to step-by-step instructions from the help menus or from other materials? There is a lot of gray area. The ethical issue of copyright continued. Mabry and O'Driscoll, 2003, discussed how some organizations reuse and reorganize learning content that is already available. This allows them to lower the cost of designing, developing, and delivering learning content. Professional technologists are therefore susceptible to such ethical breaches as taking others' credit and even becoming involved in high-tech intellectual property crime. From a biblical worldview, this is very unethical and does not portray a godly trait. According to UCLA Online Institute 2006, two legislations are relevant to the use of digital copyright in educational institutions. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998 limits the liability of nonprofit institutions of higher education when they serve as online service providers and under certain circumstances for copyright infringement by faculty members or graduate students. The TEACH Act, an acronym for the Technology, Education, and Copyright Harmonization Act, gives more freedom to accredited nonprofit educational institutions to use copyright protected materials in distance education, including on websites and by other digital means. The ethical issue of confidentiality, learner privacy. Information technology provides broad access to confidential resources. In general, technology makes individual privacy and confidential information accessible as well as vulnerable. Violation of individual privacy and the abuse of confidential information have steadily climbed. In 2010 alone, more than 400 bills on privacy were introduced in the 116th Congress of the United States to protect individual rights and control of personal data. Adult learners in training situations may feel pressured that their performance or level of competencies would be divulged to their managers. New types of technological software, such as expertise locators, can track every step of the use of online resources, assume a learner's interest and potential expertise based on his/her online activities, and categorize the individual within the organization. Frequently, all this occurs without acknowledgement of the learners. This is not ethical. Christian ethics asks what the whole Bible teaches us about which acts, attitudes, and personal character traits receive God's approval. Some instructional designers feel that dealing with learner privacy is an ethical endeavor. A learner's private information can be easily misused with technology, and it makes it easy for almost anybody to use it. There might be an online gradebook that you could cut and paste it into an Excel spreadsheet and publish it into a report and show it online. The 66 books of the Bible gives a clear definition of what is good, bad, right, and wrong. Another example is on a message board. You can take a snapshot of the board and paste the contents to a PowerPoint presentation. Take it to a conference and never consider the fact that student data, personal data, is being exposed. The IT professional should not behave in a manner that infringes upon another individual's rights. The ethical issue of accessibility. Website creators of distance education programs in higher education do not ignore the web accessibility issue on purpose. They don't always realize the importance of web accessibility. This may not be a topic that's at the top of discussions, but is a particular ethical issue for them. Accessibility means that a product reaches not only all end users, but also a small amount of users who have special needs, such as people with disabilities. Every new website that is created, the instructional designer should make it as accessible as possible. Whenever something new is promoted, it should be designed in such a way that it is understandable and it is relatable to all avenues of people and all sorts of life. This is the right thing to do from a biblical view. In 2006, the Justice Department stressed that the entities under the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, are required to provide effective communication through print media, audio media, or such electronic media as the internet. A 2007 U.S. Census Bureau report indicated that 19.6% of the U.S. population has some sort of disability, such as visual or hearing impairments. It is clear that providing equal learning opportunities to people with disabilities is imperative. In 2008, the accessibility requirements for U.S. electronic and information technology took effect under Section 508 of the Federal Rehabilitation Act, which is considered to be the ADA of cyberspace. Other than laws that require web accessibility, many agencies, from an ethical standpoint, have been contributing to the growth of web accessibility to people with disabilities. The World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, has earned international recognition for establishing guidelines and providing resources to the universal design of the World Wide Web. Web accessibility in mind, WebAIM, aims at improving accessibility to online learning opportunities for all people, and especially helping people with disabilities who experience difficulty in getting access to post secondary online learning opportunities. These joint efforts have been appraised by research. Code of Professional Ethics. The Code of Professional Ethics is considered to be principles of ethics to aid members in maintaining high professional conduct. The list is extensive, and I will only be covering a few in this presentation. For the entire list, please turn to the reference section and visit the AECT website. AECT has persistently aimed to heighten the awareness of the importance of ethical behavior. The AECT code is carefully reviewed by an active committee on professional ethics on a yearly basis. Section 1, Commitment to the Individual Learner. There are 9 codes in this section. I will only cover 4. In fulfilling obligations to the individual learner, the member shall encourage the individual learner to pursue learning on their own and given access to other points of view, shall protect the individual learner's rights of access to professional or instructional materials of other points of view, shall guarantee to each individual learner the opportunity to participate in any appropriate educational program, shall make reasonable efforts to protect the individual learner from learning environments or working conditions harmful to health and safety, including harmful conditions caused by technology. Section 2, Commitment to Society. There are 6 codes in this section. I will only cover 4. In fulfilling obligations to society, the member shall represent accurately the member's institution, organization, and take adequate precautions to distinguish between personal and institutional or organizational views, shall not use institutional or associational privileges for private gain, shall promote responsible use of communication media for learning and social purposes, shall not accept any gifts or gratuities in exchange for favors or services. Section 3, Commitment to the Profession. There are 10 codes in this section. I will only cover 4. In fulfilling obligations to the profession, the member shall conduct professional business through proper channels, shall observe all laws relating to or affecting the profession, shall avoid commercial exploitation of members, shall conduct research using professionally accepted guidelines, especially as they apply to protecting participants from harm. My conclusion. The purpose of this presentation was to share with my peers the concept of ethics in instructional design as it relates to a biblical worldview. The following topics were covered: the ethical issue of copyright, confidentiality, also known as learner privacy, and accessibility, the ACET Professional Code of Ethics. This presentation ends with this conclusion and references. Thank you so much. This has been Sherry J. Mack.